That was beautiful. Let's give Dorothy and Jack another round of applause. Wow. Okay. And now I have to follow that. And I know you'll be kind. Oh, it's so good to be able to speak today. In a couple of days, it will be Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, the 15th. And as a country, we honor his contributions to making our society a better place. And so my talk today is titled Voice of Love, Voice for Change, honoring the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so much of what Dr. King did so resonates with what unity is all about. And I want to start with reminding us of what our fifth principle is. It says that knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are not enough. We must live the truth that we know. We must live it. We must be it. Our Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore said that love is the greatest harmonizing power in the universe. The greatest harmonizing power in the universe. And Martin Luther King said something similar about love. He said, "Love is the most durable power in the world. It is the most potent instrument available in mankind's quest for peace and security." Love. We know that God, the source of all good, is love, right? But in our day-to-day thinking and experiences, we sometimes forget this truth. We forget to live what we know. I like what Hawkins has said in his poem. "I sometimes forget that I was created for joy. My mind is too busy. My heart is too heavy for me to remember that I have been called to dance, the sacred dance of life. I was created to smile, to love, to be lifted up, and to lift others up. O sacred one, untangle my feet from all that ensnares, free my soul, that we might dance, and that our dancing might be contagious." Yes. Yes. Love. It's that divine energy within each of us that heals as well as creates, that harmonizes as well as plays the melodies of life. And while it may not be visible, the voice of love is calling each of us to honor what we have, to creatively use our talents, our time, our treasure, to uplift, to serve, to bring joy even to one person, even in the midst of despair. It is our personal and our collective responsibilities to heal, to harmonize, and to create rather than destroy. Martin Luther King Jr. gave voice to love. He listened and followed his inner guidance, his divine love energy. In his work as author, minister, teacher, leader, orator, and social activist, he understood love to be his most effective means to communicate his messages for justice and peace. Dr. King was only 35 years old when he received the Nobel Peace Prize for his extraordinary work and his accomplishments. In his acceptance speech, he said, "Sooner or later, all people of the world will have to discover a way to live together in peace, and thereby transform this pending cosmic elegy into a creative psalm of brotherhood. If it is to be achieved, man must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love." The eloquence of Dr. King's voice and the divine essence that he exuded inspired millions, one of whom was my father, who was a minister and civil rights activist in the small town of Longview, Texas. As a result of personally knowing Martin Luther King Jr. as my minister when I was a young college student and living through the trauma of his assassination and healing through that trauma, I am here in this place, in this space, to uplift and to speak on how his voice and others' voices of love are voices for change. In May 1967, 4 months before I met Dr. King and before he became my minister, he wrote in a letter, and I quote, "Sometimes conscience dictates that you take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but you must take it because it is right." End of quote. Those words have resonated through my being for more than 55 years. The loving thing to do may not be popular or politic but it is always the right thing to do. Former President Jimmy Carter lived by those words, and it may have cost him his re-election to the White House, but that was okay. He lived his truth. He understood what he was to do, what his responsibility was. And his legacy of extraordinary accomplishments post-presidency, including receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, will live forever. My father, like Dr. King, showed me when I was a young girl the importance of loving one's enemies. Dr. King was a powerful affirmation of what my father had initially taught me as a young girl. And that was, you cannot return hate for hate and expect to get justice. As Martin Luther King said in his book, Strength to Love, returning hate for hate multiplies hate. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Only love. During one of the many times that he was jailed for living his truth, Dr. King made the following prayer appeal for justice. He said, "Even though convicted, we will not retaliate with hate, but will stand with love in our hearts and stand resisting injustice with the same determination with which we started out." We need a great deal of encouragement in this movement. Of course, one thing that we are depending on from not only other communities, but from our own community is prayer. We ask people everywhere to pray that God will guide us, pray that justice will be done and that righteousness will stand. And I think through these prayers, we will be strengthened. It will make us feel the unity of the nation and the presence of Almighty God. For as we said all along, this is a spiritual movement. End of quote. The voice of Dr. King was a voice of love, and through it, a voice for change. I knew him to live a life of purpose, and that purpose was to right the wrongs of society that existed in the 20th century through love. Well, it is now the 21st century, and while much progress has been made through the changes facilitated by Dr. King and so many others, there is still much love to be spread. Every day, it is my intention to focus my life on love. I believe it is my duty to spread love's message. I am here to uplift. I am here to promote an understanding that we are all here to love and to help each other. When I remember this and practice this, my life is better. And while I may not see it, I know others' lives are impacted in positive ways as well. Maya Angelou, an amazing woman that I had the opportunity to meet, understood her role as a voice of love. She remembered how to love and to uplift others through her prose and dance and poetry. I invite you to listen to me as I share one of her powerful, encouraging, and uplifting poems titled Continue. My wish for you is that you continue. Continue to be who and how you are, to astonish a mean world with your acts of kindness. Continue to allow humor to lighten the burden of your tender heart. Continue. In a society dark with cruelty, to let the people hear the grandeur of God in the peals of your laughter. Continue to let your eloquence elevate the people to heights they had only imagined. Continue to remind the people that each is as good as the other, and that no one is beneath nor above you. Continue to remember your own young years and look with favor upon the lost and the least and the lonely. Continue to put the mantle of your protection around the bodies of the young and defenseless. Continue to take the hand of the despised and diseased and walk proudly with them in the high street. Some might see you and be encouraged to do likewise. Continue to plant a public kiss of concern on the cheek of the sick and the aged and infirm, and count that as a natural action to be expected. Continue to let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer, and let faith be the bridge you build to overcome evil and welcome good. Continue to dare to love deeply and risk everything for the good thing. Continue to float happily in the sea of infinite substance which set aside riches for you before you had a name. Continue. And by doing so, you and your work will be able to continue eternally. Unity's fifth principle says it's not enough to know the principles. We must put our stated principles into action. When we individually and collectively live our principles through our daily actions of love, we are the voice of love. We are the voice for positive change. And today we honor the extraordinary legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a voice of love who left us a legacy of love and service. Thank you.